everyone. So welcome back again to your weekly astrological transits. And this week we're going to go from Monday, May 27th through June 2nd. Ooh, already in June. But first I just wanted to give a big high five, sending tons of gratitude to all of our service members, service angels of the past, present, and future. Because of course Monday we'll be celebrating Memorial Day. So other than that, there are so many aspects going on with the transits for the next week. It's too much to name here. I would just be talking for 5 minutes without getting to a chart. So I'm just going to bring you right over my table and into the charts one day at a time. Okay, be right back. Okay, so I have the chart set for 6 a.m. for Monday, May 27th. And again, a happy Memorial Day weekend. I can see with Monday, and this is the lead up, as I'm doing this reading on the Thursday before. So before the weekend, this is the lead up that we're going to have on Monday morning, where the moon is sandwiched right in between Ceres and powerful Pluto. So there can be some powerful emotions coming up this weekend, and at maybe a bit of a fever pitch on Monday morning that has to do with nurturing and protection. With Ceres, we're in Capricorn, we're duty bound to protect the things that matter most to us and to be loyal to those that we love. And there can be some feelings that come up, very, very powerful feelings. With the moon in Capricorn as well, having crossed over Ceres, is now bumping up against, won't be long before it's right there into that conjunction with Pluto, an exact conjunction no less. So with the moon at the last 4 degrees of the sign of Capricorn, these are intense feelings that can be coming up and connected to grief and separation. So anyone who has ever lost anyone in war, or just the grieving for the fact that we've had and we continue to have war on the planet, is just it's something that we may really all be feeling deeply over this weekend, and especially peaking on Monday morning, and actually into Monday afternoon as well too. So let's be careful with our words. Let's be careful to not get into any arguments with anyone. You never know what people are going through. You never know of the degree of loss that they've suffered in life. And we do know that grief comes in waves and it gets triggered, and we can feel it as it's passing through or as it's rising up. We can feel it around us. So we want to be very, very careful this weekend. And that's especially true with this sesqui-square here coming down to the sun in Gemini. Gemini wants to communicate, and there can be some stubborn communications as to, what are we loyal to? Who are we loyal to? What philosophical beliefs are we loyal to? And again, it's a time to be careful. Now we also have, you can see that we have Ceres here in this exact square, pretty much, it's 1 degree. And Ceres moving retrograde, going backwards, Mars going forward. So things are really tightening up within this 1 degree here. Ceres to Mars, again, with that square, there's that tension field where decisions are going to likely be made. Mars rules the military. Mars in square to Ceres brings through a very, like fight for your right, depending on who you're talking to. You have to be careful because it can be, with Mars at that 20 degree, and same deal with Ceres. We're at that last decan of the sign, so there can be some. We've learned some lessons, but now something's getting in really, really deep, and with Mars very close to Chiron, we're talking old wounding. We're talking, feeling like you don't matter, feeling like you can't be independent, feeling like you can't have your autonomy, and also there's the fear of abandonment issue. So sometimes, people just react impulsively and say things or do things because they don't realize, they're in emotional reaction. But they also have really good reason to have those old emotional reactions coming up because we're talking real life experience. And nobody likes having their family taken away from them or someone dying in war, especially when it seems to be for no reason, right? I mean, ridiculous things that have happened just for like fighting for oil, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. So I really want to hold this space in my heart for those who had an intention to protect and serve and that love to lay down your life for your brothers and sisters, and then also to maybe hold space on the other side for where they just have not gotten the respect they deserved, and they were part of a system that maybe did not protect them, or most likely did not protect them the way they deserve to be protected. So it's a miracle when you get through the armed services and come through the other side with an open, loving heart. And I just want to salute and shout out to all of those people that I know that are that way. So, yeah. So all of these squares up to Ceres, and then the moon right in there as well. They're just, all I can say is to make a blanket term or a blanket statement. I think that this will be an emotional Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. So, all right. Now, a good way to use the energy with Mars close to Chiron here, because Mars does move energy, and with Aries, it can bring through something new. So we can bring through, if we can use the energy in the highest level. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't also grieve in between, or you have a lot of feelings that come up and then the light comes through. I never say, or I never think to myself that having a lot of feelings means that you're in darkness. And I don't have even any judgment around depression because I know it's part of the healing process. And I really, really honor the real feelings that are coming up. As long as we're not hurting ourselves or someone else, the feelings are meant to help us heal, right? They cleanse the soul. So once that has happened, then Mars comes, brings through a different kind of energy that really nurtures your independence and your autonomy. And then the larger gifts, the deeper gifts that you have with Chiron in Aries, and if you were born with Chiron in Aries, especially at this later degree here, this is one of your deepest gifts, is to trust your instincts and to move forward and become very, very independent. Independent of thought, independent of action, independent, so that you're not just reacting from what you think other people want you to do or be or act like or whatever, so that you get their love or approval. So these are touchy times, and then especially because Chiron is getting closer and closer to Eris. We're all these feminine issues are coming up, and this is challenging. This is really challenging. We're at such a point in our history, and I'd like to say these are unprecedented times, but women have been oppressed forever. So no, I can't say it's unprecedented. It's just that it's so real now. To go backwards in time with our reproductive rights is ridiculous, unbelievably crazy. And then meanwhile, and I'll speak to Pluto and Aquarius on the dark side for a minute, this would be indicative of someone like, I don't even want to call him Justice, but Samuel Alito, who flew the, and here's like, let's just stab in the back a little deeper, right? Or the knife's already in, let's twist it. Imagine fighting in the military for your country, and then you have some asshole like this guy flying the American flag upside down over his house. And then turns out he did it in another house. Turns out the dude has more than one house, right? I mean, what? And at both places, he has flown the flag upside down just to piss off the neighbors. So that's up for reckoning, right? And the dark side of Aquarius, of course, is being cut off from the heart, is being very outspoken, very eccentric sometimes, but just mostly detached. And then sometimes it's also about just disseminating, putting something out there in a very aloof way, and they think they're being clever, and they think that it's in their individual, independent nature, whatever. But there's also this weird solidarity with somebody who's high up, this like high mucky muck level bullshit. Okay, that's all the cussing for today. But it's I mean, if you think about it, it can put you on edge. So be careful. I hope I'm not inciting anything here, but this guy needs to be impeached, as well as Clarence Thomas. They need to recuse themselves from any of Donald Trump's appeals that, of course, will come, are already out there. It's going to be maybe the end of June that we'll have they'll have, I don't know, what do you call it, a decree or whatever. They'll make their decision, and some will dissent and some will not, as to whether or not Donald John Trump has immunity in his official or unofficial capacity. Whatever. I mean, why they would even take something on that was already decided by a high court in Washington, D.C. is that this shows that we're up to there's something. So it might be, and that's a real possibility. It might be this week, because with Mercury conjunct Uranus, Mercury's moving pretty quickly. By the end of the week, we'll have Mercury conjunct Uranus. Actually by Thursday, late Thursday. And then with starting off the week with the moon hitting up Pluto after crossing over Ceres, and it's all in very serious, duty-oriented Capricorn, and then with all this information coming through because of this Gemini stellium we have going on here, it is very possible that there's a lot of news coming out that can be shocking. Now, this is great. Mercury conjunct Uranus is great for intuitive work, especially when it comes to self-care with, being in Taurus. Self-care and creating new inventions for safety and bringing through new ways to preserve the things that you own. And being faithful to your principles, things like that. But for people who are just trying to hold on to their money and are using their position of power, which I don't see it as real power, but they do have power, maybe there's going to be some new invention of term limits. There's so much that could be done that we could add, to the bench. Maybe Congress and maybe Biden will get together and get something going, because it really needs to happen. Really needs to happen. So, okay, let's focus in here now with notice how Neptune is at 29 degrees Pisces. We have this beautiful sextile over to Jupiter at 0 degrees of Gemini. So, like I spoke about it last week, Jupiter in Gemini is all about this expanse of learning and having faith in something new because you've learned something new. Hopefully it has to do with, because now this would be a Jupiterian trait, is to be want to be in alignment with spiritual law and natural laws. We have man-made laws, but they're not always in alignment with spiritual law. And so it could be that with Jupiter expanding the mind, that there can be some new level of optimism that comes in, where we can maybe see something new across the horizon. And on one level, this is good. This is Jupiter, especially conjunct Venus, is really good for the comedians. This is good for comedic material, and especially looking forward into the future. If the future is something that Jupiter is all about. But yeah, also Jupiter can be about excess. So there can be a lot of excess learning, curiosity, talking, but not really grounding in. And that's especially possible because of the sextile over to Neptune in Pisces. Now, Neptune in Pisces is beautiful for art and any type of art, any type of art at all is part and parcel of Neptune and Pisces as well. And then with the sextile over to Jupiter, there can be something much bigger than you've ever experienced before in that department. So, and it could be, like this is muse kind of energy here. Gemini would be, I would think, one of the signs of the muse. Also Sag, it's polar opposite. But so with the air sign, or the stellium in air here, in the air, Jupiter in an air sign, we are in that realm of thinking in different ways, in new ways, and then Pluto in Aquarius would help us with that as well. Pluto goes deep. Aquarius can help us open up the mind and be more intuitive and inventive. So it can be good, and it can also help us to be more outgoing, and then especially with all this Gemini over here. So let's see, what else? We have a couple of semi-squares here coming from the Sun, actually Venus as well, and then over to Mars. So it just, and especially Mars being connected to Chiron, I would say what's going on over here is that there's going to need to be some actions taken in order to feel good. Like Monday is going to be one of those days where there's going to be there's a lot to think about, a lot to learn, and a lot to talk about. And it's good to be careful about getting into any arguments, because somebody, especially over here in the Aries side, will fight. They'll fight. They'll stand up and fight if you don't agree with them. So you're going to have to be intuitive, use this Mercury-Uranus conjunction in Taurus to let you know as to like who's safe to talk to and who's not. And you might just want to be careful not to be too pushy if you have opinions that differ. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to Tuesday. Tuesday, you can see that the moon has crossed over to the other side of Pluto. It has picked up all that energy and is now we have the moon in Aquarius too. Now, Aquarius can be really good for networking and getting things categorized and creating some new structure or deepening a structure that's already been created. But generally, when the moon or any planet, like I said before, is in the first decan, 0 to 9 degrees, we're developing some type of a foundation. So, and there aren't any aspects going on this morning anyway to the moon. So it's kind of free, open energy to reinvent something maybe, or add to. When you're networking and you're categorizing and collecting information, or collecting things that make a structure more solid, Aquarian energy is really good for that. And with the moon, it will, you'll be able to kind of connect the dots and then respond according to your intuition. Your curiosity and intuition, I would think, would be very heightened this week, especially early in the week. Well, actually later too, because look, notice how Mercury's getting closer and closer to Uranus. So, we're talking like divine mind here. And in the sign of Taurus, it has everything to do with what principles that you're really faithful to, and how you want to, which ways you might want to create more security in your life. So, yeah. Okay, and then we can see that Saturn here has a pretty tight orb going on here to Mercury with this sextile. So Mercury sextile Saturn brings through that, in Pisces no less, brings through that open expanse of positive or pure potential, more and more potential, more and more possibilities. It's a great time for with your thinking and communications with Mercury, and getting messages no less. You can get messages from your guides that can really help you to go, if you can go into that realm of like, well, what if? What if I tried this? Or what if I tried it, now I've already done it this way, but what if I tried it that way? And just for fun, just to explore lots of possibilities. Now, it's also really good energy for getting messages that come through, any type of film or art, messages that come through any type of like body work you might have, like energy healing, or Reiki, hands-on healing, or Reiki, or massage, even acupuncture. So yeah, there's that possibility too. And then you can see we still have Neptune sextile Jupiter. That is wonderful. That's going on for that'll be in there probably all week. We'll see as we move forward. You can see that Mars has already moved forward 1 degree, is really hooking up to Chiron. So yeah, that's pretty powerful. Yeah, forward movement that comes from your deeper gifts is very much supported this week. So let's see, what else? Yeah, let's just go ahead and go to let's see, hold on. Now we have Mars exactly square series, and I did speak about that before, so it's in there today, very tight. 21-0, yeah. Yep. Okay, Wednesday. Now I did I did say Mars with Chiron, but I changed the settings to do a tighter orb. So now that Mars is 1 degree away and Chiron has moved back, now we've got that 2 degree separation. So I named the charts before I changed the settings, so that this is going to be a little bit off. But anyway, so now for today we can look at the moon in an exact square to Uranus. So from Aquarius to Taurus, this could very well bring through a bit of a need to make a decision based on some new information that's come through, and it can very well be intuitive information, or it could be something surprising and unpredictable that you didn't see in the past. But now today, there's some deeper awareness as to a change that needs to be made, or maybe it's a decision to keep on keeping on, and you stay where you are, you hold your position, and and then from there you have a new level of strength. So now it also could just be a new intuitive hit that helps you to maybe reform something that was already in place, and to bring in even more strength. Because, Aquarius is always about thinking outside the box. This could also be some new information that comes through about humanitarian issues, and it can be a little shocking with the square to Uranus, and it's like, oh God, again, what are they doing now, kind of thing. On the darker side, we could experience something like that. And then we can see that we also have Mars and Chiron in a semi-square to Venus. So there we are with actions that will need to be taken, and it may just be very, very instinctual coming from all the Aries energy. Like I said, Mars conjunct Chiron. Wow. And then over to Venus, we're talking, we're thinking about women and feminine issues, and how do we be in a unitive place where, the feminine and children and the family are thought of as and protected in ways that matter, rather than being controlled. Right? I mean, yeah. So I think I've said enough about that so many times. But changes need to happen. And with this stellium in Gemini, we are definitely thinking along those terms. Venus conjunct the sun is definitely, we've got that spotlight. We're learning new things and we're talking about it. We've gathered, or we are gathering information, and, like realizing, Alito has another house where he flew that type of flag upside down, or flew the American flag upside down and did the same thing. So now there's that. Jupiter in Gemini it's going to be, sitting. We'll have Jupiter in Gemini for the whole year, but it takes a little more time to move. It doesn't move very quickly. So, let's just go ahead and go forward to Thursday. Thursday, now we do have Mercury very, very close to Uranus. And in fact, it will be exact at 10:54 p.m. tonight. So, in that specific time. So if you tend to be a night owl, you might get some really good information. Or if you go to sleep and set your intention, because you'll always get what you need eventually, but set your intention to understand, to get some dreamtime guidance, it may very well come through in some very practical way. Like, the guidance will just be very, you could get guidance that could be something like, if you do this, you'll get that, or it's just some practical advice that can come through in dream time. And that's especially true with Neptune and Pisces. It's just such a powerful placement. And you can see that this morning the moon has moved into Pisces as well. And soon we're going to have the moon conjunct Saturn. Actually, that happens at, I have a note here, 5:33 p.m., the moon will conjunct Saturn. So this can be a dreamy kind of a day in the morning, but we do have the square here to Venus, the moon square Venus. The moon in Pisces is thinking, or is more attuned to being in bliss, and then Venus is in Gemini is wanting harmony, but there's a square between the two. So I am thinking that for a lot of you, this morning, you will want quiet time, you'll want downtime, you'll want meditation time in the morning, and you might not want a lot of noise, but because Venus is in Gemini, there's so much going on and your curiosity might be piqued. But try to get in, if you get enough sleep in on Wednesday night, that'll help. And because the closer Mercury gets to Uranus, the more like electrifying it is in the body. The nervous system might be a little amped up. So get good sleep as much as you can this week. That will definitely help. Now the moon is also, we have two semi-squares, so in that is coming from Chiron and Mars together. Mars is now on the other side of Chiron and has moved some energy through, which either brought up the deeper wounding that needed to heal and you're in process, or moved the energy through in a way that your gifts have come through, however they are for you. And you can see how this energy here has, or these, Chiron and Mars also has two semi-squares coming over here to the Sun and Venus. So there's information coming in to create more harmony and unity in your life. This is really good for writers. But action will need to be taken. This will be the morning that's like, okay, I've got to get this written down. I need to get this documented. I need this information in place. And then with the semi-squares up to the moon, I would think that there's inspiration, but the action needs to come through. Okay, whatever it is, even if it's just your own, like that's not important, but because it really is, your own journaling. It's really important to write down what you're feeling, what you're going through. It helps you to process it through. So, yeah. And then we can see we do have a couple sextiles here coming from Chiron and Mars over to Mercury and Uranus. So that's a lot of energy. I hope your gifts are coming through because you definitely have the opportunity to talk about them in new ways and then to get even more divine guidance, divine information, divine mind coming through. I love this. This is really, really wonderful here. So yeah, okay, let's go to Friday. So Friday, now we have the moon. Here we've got the moon making part of a sandwich again in between Saturn and Neptune. So Saturn and Pisces can be our spiritual foundation that we've been working on. And you can see that the moon is sextiling. We have an exact sextile going on here from Ceres. So this, and then bumping up against every hour that goes past, we'll get closer and closer to Neptune. So that, the moon exactly conjunct Saturn on this side happened at 1:24 a.m. Pacific. I have this chart set for 6, but now we've got the sandwich here with the moon. So there was something serious, I think, that came through in dream time, or there can be some serious awarenesses as to, it can be very inspiring, but it can also be very compassionate, maybe because, Saturn and Pisces can be a bit like a karmic vacuum cleaner in that you're seeing things from such a high perspective that you're no longer judging the little things that happened. You're not judging all the details that happened. You're seeing the experiences that you went through as a means to healing, no matter how painful or no matter how problematic it was for you. You're seeing things more from that higher lens where it's like, oh yeah, I did go through that. Yeah, that was really awful. But look at me now. Now I don't judge myself for going through it. And now you pat yourself on the back that you got through it, and you're acknowledging how strong you are and how with Pisces energy, it's a lot about, and 12th house energy as well, it's a lot about coming full circle. And, this is why it's like the fish, and they're coming together, right? Full circle, because you've come from one side, and now you're coming together to the beauty of the future. And so we've got an ending and a new beginning all at the same time, which, in the highest levels, there really are no endings and beginnings. It's all just one circuit of energy that continues to move into a benign circle of love. Love and abundance and truth, it's all the same. So all of that coming into the moon conjunct Neptune, and this is really, really beautiful. That will happen at the moon will actually conjunct Neptune exactly at 10:36 a.m. So just, about 4 hours. So you can expect between, no matter how early you wake up in the morning, and then somewhere before lunchtime Pacific, you may have come full circle with some brand new inspiration that is very connected to your guides, your guardian angels coming through. And because, Neptune to me is always source energy. Now, so they can, if you work with them, they're really going to be there strongly for you and help you create some new or build upon a solid foundation. With Saturn in the second decan, we are definitely, it's almost into the third, we have been learning lessons. And now maybe this juncture of the moon, makes it around every 28 days. So this one, with the moon being in the third decan, in the deepening and blossoming stage, there's something really beautiful that can come through with your intuition, with your psychic abilities, with all your sensitivities opening up, with your empathic abilities, and it might just be that your imagination is heightened in a way that you can invent something really beautiful. So yeah. And then also we have the moon sextile right here, moving in. We've got a great sextile this morning up to Chiron and Mars. So again, coming full circle. And forgiveness falls under the realm of Neptune and Pisces. Again, because you've come full circle. Doesn't mean you forget anything. It just means that you don't hold those old resentments. And if you are, if you realize, oh yeah, I am still resentful about that. What is that about? And then you try and get inside of, like, what is that about? Because it might just be that there's still some way you're either giving yourself away, or something that was left unsaid, and something that was, where you didn't have closure. And you might have to create a spiritual way, of closure. You might have to create a way that you connect with their spirits, because maybe they're not on the planet anymore, or maybe it's not safe to connect with them, physically. It's possible. Yeah. So, and then you can see also that we have the moon. Now, Jupiter has moved. We did get to that 1 degree, from 0 to 1 degree. And now we have that exact trine coming in today for Friday. So Jupiter trining Pluto, again, this is powerful healing opportunities of the mind, because of communication, because of learning something new about yourself or the situation. And this does bring through healing for the soul. Pluto is all about, the journey of the soul. And the journey through Aquarius will be all about, it can be about a lot of things. It can be bringing through your unique genius, but it can also be about not taking things personally anymore. Sometimes, when we have the air signs together, what we're dealing with is a way that we can detach from the hard side of, all those feelings that we were feeling before. So It depends, and whatever it is, whatever issue anybody's working through, you're not done until you're done. So don't try to push yourself through it, but you'll know when you're ready to let go or bring in something new or try again. Aquarius on the good side is all about fairness and equality, but it just can be tricky. It can be cranky, and it can be really clever, and especially with Gemini can be pretty clever too. Because Gemini energy can be kind of objectifying. You can connect the dots and get to this high level, well, not super high, but a mental place that's high, or that's connecting the dots in a way that's very clever, but it doesn't see the big picture. That's what we need Pisces for. And Aquarius is pretty good at that too. But yeah. So, okay. What else? I think that's probably about it. Well, let's see. Did I got the semi-squares going here? Yeah, still the same semi-squares from Chiron and Mars over to the Sun and Venus. So I think we've covered that. It's just that, action's going to need to be taken in order to, and look how close Venus is to the Sun right there. But action's definitely going to need to be taken in order to bring in some mental harmony. Now that Jupiter is 8 degrees away from Venus, it's not like mind-blowing anymore. It's and it's might not be so much communication, verbal diarrhea maybe, that has softened, and now it's the Sun and Venus together, really wanting, and it's in that first decan, so really wanting to develop a foundation that, because we've been learning during this period, and whatever we've learned by the end of this week, now we think we have something solid. But of course, it'll be tested, throughout the rest of the journey through the last 2 decans, because the next decan from 10 to 19 degrees, with the Sun moving from 10 to 19 degrees, we're already right in there. Now we are learning some lessons. We've learned some things, and now we're going to learn how those things work or don't work. So, yeah. Okay, let's go to Saturday. Now, Saturday, we do have Mars really tight with Eris. So there's powerful movement that, and with Eris in that last decan. Now, Eris, remember, takes 558 years to get around the zodiac. So it's going to be years and years before it even gets into Taurus. But for now, it's about... in this last decan, we are deepening this this place where we want to be. Aries is all about just being. Well, Taurus is too, but it's like you're projecting your own being into the world. So there's this kind of this feeling of waking up to new opportunities and asserting ourselves. So if we can use the energy in the healthiest way, it is to have more courage to assert yourself and your real needs and your individuality, but being on your own path. And it's very instinctual. The movement forward is like you get up to walk and you don't think about, oh, okay, wait, right foot and then left, and then you're not thinking. You just go. That's Aries energy. And at this we're in that last 4 degrees of of the sign. We are really deepening and blooming our the blooms are coming through because we've been through so much. Because remember, Eris she's the feminine counterpart to Pluto, and Pluto's or Mars has always been kind of like Pluto's little brother, right? Mars in Aries at 24 degrees is also deepening something. So there's movement this week. There's tons of movement. And I would say with all those aspects of the moon, it's been very emotionally charged. And you can see today we have the moon in Aries this morning. So, yeah. So it's going to be more of an instinctual day where we're going to be maybe defending ourselves or activating things that we're motivated about. We might be starting things in a new way that were started before. But then, the moon's going to catch up to the North Node and cross over Chiron, and, so, yeah. Oh, and we still have that little semi-square going on there. Mercury now is on the other side of Uranus and moving towards Gemini. So, Mercury, having received some guidance from Uranus, and Mercury gave some messages to Uranus as well. They had their little powwow. And now Mercury's moving towards Jupiter for the healing. So whatever guidance that you received this week, now you're moving towards maybe more of a curiosity as to, okay, so what do I do with this, and how do I expand upon it, and in a way that creates growth for me. And again, remember, Jupiter is always about spiritual law. So if you can, live your life from spiritual law, like taking self-responsibility for creating your life best you can with what you have, and knowing that, there's a price to pay. You have to work hard for what you want. Some things will come easy, but that's because you've just been working on them for a long, long time, to the point that you forget. It's like, oh yeah, I actually did start this about 10 years ago. How it evolved to where you are now, you can't ever foresee. So there's this, living kind of from a wing and a prayer. That's Jupiter. And leaving it up to the mystery of what would bring through healing. Now, also, Jupiter's all about protection, too. Jupiter's a lot. I mean, it's about studying things, and then it can also have to do with wisdom and optimism, and so we're seeking something, and it's something that will help us to have a healthier belief system. So Jupiter and Gemini can actually be, there can be this nice period where we are connecting the dots and bringing in more opportunities for the future. So, okay, let's go ahead and go to Sunday. Now, Sunday, we do have, so the sun is at 12 degrees. Venus is only 1 degree away. So there's, the sun and Venus together in Gemini is really good for communication and really good for trying to bring in more harmony. It can be a little indulging sometimes. So if you start getting to that place of TMI, too much information, you might want to catch yourself, especially on Sunday, because with the sun here, and I didn't have the orbs. Well, here, let's just do this real quick. Let's just go to standard. There. I like them apples. So the sun has the square to Saturn up here. So Saturn in Pisces wants to go big, but big in a way that is strong. Okay. Pisces can see all possibilities, but Saturn is the reality tester. And then the square over here, and it's an approaching square, because the sun's at 12, Saturn's at 18, right? So every day, the sun will move 1 degree every day. And so it'll go into next week. We're going to have this square to Saturn. This is the approaching square, where there's going to be decisions that need to be made in order to strengthen this foundation, this spiritual foundation that is compassionate and sensitive. And some people will be tested because they're going to be working in the dark side. You know who I'm talking about. And it has to do with grifting, and it has to do with with victimizing their people, and they don't really care about their people at all. Everybody's just a number and a means. It's all transactional. The psychopathy lives in transactional relationships. That's the only reason that they're there. So yeah, and then you can see the Sun and Venus will be moving into an exact trine next week. And so moving into this, this coming up weekend. So this chart is set for June 2nd, Sunday. And the trine to the South Node will be bringing through connections from the past, and you get to decide, you're thinking about and communicating with either you yourself in your past, and this does include past lives, or actually it's probably both. Also relationships that you've been in the past, and there's this new level of communication. Relationships that you're in now, and there's a new level of communication coming through. So yeah, let's see. The sesquisquare is such a wide orb. I'm not even going to go there. And then all these squares from Ceres to the moon. Let's go back to the type. Yeah. Ceres to the moon. See how Ceres is at 20 degrees and the moon is at 19? This is important here because the moon the moon's crossed over, the Aries moon is crossed over the North Node. And remember, picked up all that guidance and wisdom in Pisces. There was a lot, so we started out the week with the moon in Capricorn over here, setting off the whole week, looking at whatever it is that we need to know about in order to have more stability in our material lives, right? Physical, material, practical lives. And then crossed over Pluto, had the journey in Aquarius where we picked up more information, kind of thinking outside the box, maybe got a little rebellious, and then had something come full circle and maybe some healing that happened in Pisces, lots of guidance from our guides and in dream time. And now we've got this we've had this new information to lead us on our path, right? Because the North Node is always about the future that we're headed towards, and now we're firmly in that, going in that direction, or we're at least trying to find that direction. But there's this square to Ceres because it's coming back to, oh wait, I have to make sure that I'm thinking on solid terms, that I'm not responding from emotional reaction to the past, and I'm moving forward into the future best I can. That's going to be that's what's on the table this morning. But the moon will exactly conjunct Chiron at 10 this morning, about 10:03 Pacific time. And so there's a possibility here because when planets merge together, it makes them more powerful. So the emotional body can have some deeper healing, and the intuitive gifts can come through when the moon hits Chiron. And then at 3:04 p.m. Pacific, the moon will hit Mars. And so then there's a lot of energy in Aries. The moon Mars can be on one level, it can be kind of scary because it can be very assertive and forceful, and it's, just go. And there's impulsiveness that can come through. So be careful if you get out today. If you can stay home, I would. I don't think this is a good day to be out on the road. This is like road rage material here. And especially with the square coming in from Ceres, don't get in any arguments today. If you can avoid it. But if you do have to stand up for yourself, the energy's there. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. So, and then we also have the North Node with the semi-square over to Mercury. So that could, there could be some information that comes through, and then you've got this, you know which way to, you know what to do and which way to go, because there's action that needs to be taken. It can be irritating if you get information and you don't act on it. So there's that. Yeah, and then Chiron has this exact sextile going on to Uranus. So there's freedom coming through, freedom and healing coming through. With the sextile, there could be an opportunity for releasing your inner gifts in a very surprising way. There could be some aha moments, and it's go, oh, that's how to do it. Let's try it that way. Or it just happens. It's possible that it just happens, and you don't have to do anything about it. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for this week, except the only other thing to know is that we have the trine from Jupiter here to Pluto. That becomes exact at 5:13 p.m. So there could be some peak experience that's very powerful and very freeing the mind, freeing the soul. That's very possible, because a new idea has been filtering through, and now you're like, oh yeah, okay, I can do that. Or I am doing that, and you're acknowledging. So that's great. The sesquisquare coming from the South Node, that can be some stubbornness in a relationship issue. And it's connected to Uranus, so that can be a little shocking if you realize somebody's kind of stubborn when you didn't think they were, or maybe they were kind of masking that they were stubbornly holding on to something, but now it comes out. It comes out this morning, and you're like, oh, maybe you have a dream about somebody and you really get to the truth. There's that possibility. But the sesquisquares, they tend to just bring in a little bit of an unexpected detour or a disruption. And with Uranus, that's that is our planet of disruption. So maybe it's a detour as to what you've done in the past, the way you've operated in relationship, and you just are not wanting to do that anymore. There's a real possibility, because on the beautiful side of Uranus, it's always about freedom. So maybe freedom from old relationship patterns that you realize this morning just aren't working anymore. And that's always growth. And then other than that, the moon will move into Taurus. So by almost 11 p.m., 10:55 p.m. Pacific, the moon will be over here to Taurus. So next week, things won't be as fiery. And, because Mars will move into Taurus next week too, I think. I mean, yeah, it has to. So that'll slow things down, and that's good. But then again, Mercury's going to pop into Gemini, and we're going to have even more mental action going on over here. But it's also good for learning and information getting out. So it's good for news dumps to get to the truth. Like, who would have ever thought that? I mean, it's like nothing can surprise me anymore. To have a Supreme Court so-called justice flying the American flag upside down in 2 of his homes. It's like, wow. That's the epitome of rebellious Aquarius. And I would bet any amount of money that he is a reincarnated old slave master. So anyway, I'll have to look and see if any of his astrology or birth data is available. Okay. Well, I'm going to get this uploaded. And again, a happy Memorial Day. High five, big love going out to all of our military. Okay, bye.